gentlewoman from North Carolina reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Texas.
The gentleman's recognized.
And I thank the gentlelady for yielding. Madam Speaker, we had a colleague several years ago, Jim McDermott from Washington State, a Democrat. Republicans were in the majority. Republicans, during the week of April 15th, wanted to put forward a bill on the floor of the House, but didn't quite have it together. So they put together a sense of Congress resolution on fundamental tax reform. I'll never forget Dr. McDermott on the well of the House thundering against Republicans. You want tax reform, and this is the best you can do, a sense of Congress resolution? Why don't you just send a get well card to the IRS? Well, let me tell you something. Republicans on the Energy and Commerce Committee have been agitating, asking, trying to work with federal agencies to get answers on the origin of the coronavirus, to get answers on the origin of the pandemic. So here we have the China bill before us today, ironically on Groundhog's Day, but here's the China bill. And by golly, we're going to get to the bottom of the coronavirus pandemic. And what do we get? We get Section 30219B, Report on Origins of the COVID-19 Pandemic. And what does the next line say? Sense of Congress. It is the sense of Congress that blah, blah, blah. In other words, no force of law, no teeth, no requirement of any federal agency to do anything, no requirement really for even a real investigation, which is what, honestly, we need. We're sitting on the eve of Olympic Games that are going to be held in Communist China. And we don't have answers for what caused this pandemic. We're going to have a moment of silence later this week, appropriately so, another milestone of lives lost, but we don't know about the origins of this virus. Let me tell you something else. Last night in the Rules Committee, I tried to get one of Dr. Wenstrup's very thoughtful amendments included. He has an amendment that says, this gain-of-function research that was carried out, it might be pretty dangerous. We need to think about where it is conducted, and we shouldn't use United States taxpayer dollars to fund this research in countries that are our adversaries. And I offered that amendment on behalf of Dr. Wenstrup, and every Democrat member of the Rules Committee said, it's good with us. You go ahead and send those dollars over there, do that research. We've got this new W Visa startup that's language in the bill. No language about protecting American jobs, but we're going to give jobs to other people. We're already funding the United Nations Green Climate Fund for $100 million directly to China. Oh, and this bill gives them another $8 billion for that same purpose. $3 billion for a slush fund for solar manufacturing. Some of us have been in this body long enough to remember some unpleasant activity with that in a stimulus bill in 2009. This bill supposedly provides over $300 billion in new spending. And I say supposedly because no one knows. No one really knows. We heard this bill in the Rules Committee, not in the authorization committees, but in the Rules Committee with no CBO score. So we're flying blind. We're approving this 3,000-page bill today, having had it for a little less than 72 hours. As you can see from the start of this, the language is still being hammered out. It wasn't quite right as it came to the floor last night from the Rules Committee. This is a bad idea. We ought to take our time and do it right because this is important, and people do want us to do this right. It does appear that right now, the Democratic leadership of this House is more concerned with politics than policy, and that is so unfortunate because we have an opportunity here to actually do something right. I yield back to the gentlelady from Minnesota.